The Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction was the first of the post-2015 global agreements adopted by United Nations member states. Drawing its name from the city of its adoption, Sendai, Japan, the framework outlines targets and priorities to substantially reduce disaster risks and losses by 2030. This was followed by the 2030 Development Agenda, which identified 17 Sustainable Development Goals to eradicate poverty and achieve sustainable development over the next 15 years. Disaster risk reduction is central to the realization of these goals.
Of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, the Sendai Framework directly links to Goal 1, 11 and 13. So these three goals, one of them relates to climate change, one of them relates to resilient cities, and the other one relates to poverty alleviation. And we know that disasters, they have a negative effect on development and can lead to the further impoverishment of people. As it stands, disasters, when they occur, the statistics have shown over the years that it is the most vulnerable, the most impoverished are the ones who get affected the most. So in that sense, the disaster, the Sendai Framework itself recognizes those vulnerabilities and the hazards and the disasters that could exacerbate those vulnerabilities further.
Within the Sendai Framework are 7 targets and 38 indicators, which form the scale on which to measure global progress in the implementation of the framework. Countries do this by entering specific information against each of the indicators in the Sendai Framework Monitor.
It's very easy to keep doing this work on a daily basis, but if you do not come up with a very systematic approach on how you are going to actually keep track of all the actions that you're undertaking, both for prevention, for preparedness, response and recovery, then it becomes very difficult to establish the trends.
Across Africa, different countries are applying different methodologies in the Sendai Framework monitoring and reporting, and from their experiences, best practices emerge. The process of data acquisition is a responsibility of government. Non-government actors provide support to the government institutions and departments. Proper institutional alignment and good coordination have been identified as pillars of success.
One advantage that we have is that we were able, when we were trying to build on the baseline data, we were able to call on all stakeholders and try to see what survey can we use, what kind of mechanism, methodology that we can use as soon as possible that can give us the data, or at least give us a snapshot so that we can report on that. So that willingness from stakeholders to work together, that understanding from stakeholders to know why we need the data, why we need to report on the Sendai, has helped us very well. Of course, it's a different experience in other countries. It helps that the institutions are vibrant, the government machinery is also vibrant, and also there's that political will.
As a way of making the data collection process more efficient, countries have come up with different coordination mechanisms based on their unique circumstances. One common alternative is to deploy small teams representing all stakeholders. They may then choose to convene national consultation fora to validate the data or any other preferred validation process.
We came up with the idea of a small team with members from Disaster Management Department, with members from Emergency Operation and Communication Center, with also members from Disaster Management Agency in Zanzibar, with also members from National Bureau of Statistics, whereby this small team managed to collect the information from various stakeholders. And thereafter, we managed now to input our information into the Sendai Framework tool.
Another alternative is where multiple government agencies and departments with relevant data are granted access to the system. When all departments have entered their share of information, the data is validated. Sendai Framework monitoring and reporting is a continuous process that requires consistency and ownership by all departments and stakeholders. For this reason, the UN Office for Disaster Risk Reduction, UNDRR, has been working with countries to create learning and experience sharing opportunities for the national coordinators.
The Sendai Framework Monitor process, it's an effort that requires a lot of coordination, and our coordinators or focal points, they have the responsibility to gather information from different sectors, and this information is sometimes scattered in different areas. So they have this responsibility of finding this quality data for monitoring the efforts of the implementation of the Sendai Framework, and it is important that countries exchange the experiences, the methodologies, the tools that they are using to get this data and to report on the Sendai Framework. So we promote peer learning exchanges among all the coordinators so that they can share the information and learn from each other.
When you're alone on the computer and you're looking through this system, sometimes it looks massive, it looks a big puzzle. But when you come here and you're in this interactive environment, you're able to you have an opportunity to even ask questions, to seek clarification on some of the elements of the system, the Sendai monitoring system that you did not understand before.
The meetings of the national coordinators and partners have also been opportunities for peer review. Participants take time to explain and discuss on the methodologies applied by different countries and take with them valuable lessons on forward improvement.
Most of us, we are not decentralized. To say wherever an event happens, there is a DRR officer who will be recording. For instance, people who die of malaria, there is an institution that records that, whom we need to rope in. For people who record accidents, accidents are happening all over the country. So we are not there as DRR officers to record that information. So we have to rely on institutions that directly deal with those issues.
African countries continue to make significant progress in Sendai Framework monitoring and reporting, especially on mortality and number of affected people. However, more information on the other targets is necessary going forward.
Of course, it's very important to measure and ensure that we reduce the losses in terms of lives and people affected. But for development purposes, it's also important to measure how much economic losses we are affecting our countries and therefore reversing development.
The Sendai Framework Monitor is a progressive creation of evidence to enable risk-informed policy decisions and allocation of resources to prevent new disaster risks. It is also an opportunity to strengthen a culture of better information management for sustainable development.
We would like to have a very strong basis of data collection on the continent. First of all, it will facilitate policy development, and secondly, it will inform a specific intervention on risk reduction.
Partnerships are very important for this process because we need different expertise, different disciplines contributing to it. The UN agencies, the Red Cross movement, and the civil society, donors led by the government can contribute, and at the end we all have a clearer picture of where the DRR efforts stand, where are the gaps, what do we need to improve, and we can all together achieve the targets and indicators that are convened by member states.
Learning from the experience of the foundation years, the continent has opportunity to meet all milestones going forward and provide examples to other regions across the world on methodologies that work. The goal is to ensure that countries assess their progress on the implementation of the Sendai framework and that policies on risk reduction are evidence-based. The Sendai Framework Monitor process also contributes to risk-informed development and ultimately to protect lives and livelihoods from disasters.